MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, talking Tide with the Alabama Crimson Tide lining up for its second SEC game of the season against the Ole Miss Rebels, coming off a very bitter and difficult loss in the last few seconds of the game at the goal line against Cal, trying to rebound against maybe the best team in the nation. We got Stephen M. Smith on the line from touchdownalabama.com. Stephen, how you doing today?
Doing good, Mark. It's a beautiful Tuesday here in Tuscaloosa. Just wrapping up a couple of player interviews, but always a fun time to be a part of Mark Rogers TV.
There you go. We appreciate you stopping by. So you've talked to a few players today. Who have you had a chance to chat with, and anything interesting out of those conversations?
Well, right now we got a chance to look at two today. Anthony Jennings, the outside linebacker, and Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. Nothing too interesting, but both guys looking forward to facing Ole Miss at home this weekend.
A number of injuries to talk about. If you can get us set for the Ole Miss kickoff in regards to the health of the football team and also the suspension of Deontay Brown.
Had a couple of guys, Mark, that were a bit banged up this week. Terrell Lewis, the outside linebacker, Alabama taking their time with him. He had a hyperextended knee in the matchup against South Carolina. Didn't really play much in that game. Sat out the Southern Miss game, but Alabama hopeful to have him for Ole Miss. Anthony Jennings, who has practiced this week, seemed a bit limited in Monday's practice, but should be good to go, full go on today. True freshman defensive lineman DJ Dale had a strained patella tendon in his knee against Southern Miss. Did not practice on Monday. Should be able to go today and throughout the rest of the week. And then you have place kicker Will Reichert, who suffered a hip flexor in the matchup against Southern Miss. He should, according to Xavier, he should be good to go to at least practice. He's kind of the one that's missed. That's the most questionable, kind of a day-to-day thing. If Reichert cannot go against the Rebels, then Alabama has shown much confidence in Joseph Fulabus, the redshirt sophomore out of Louisiana. But as of right now, the likes of Anthony Jennings, Terrell Lewis, DJ Dale, Will Reichert, and even inside linebacker Martell Benson, the redshirt sophomore, a little bit dinged and banged up this week, but hopefully a couple of these guys will be able to play against Ole Miss. Now, we can look at Deontay Brown, the redshirt junior offensive lineman from Decatur, Alabama. He is back in terms of game action this week for the Ole Miss matchup for the first time since he has missed the last 6 games, going back to the college football playoff due to an NCAA infraction. He is back and trying to fight to get back into the starting rotation on Alabama's offensive line. He started 5 games the season ago at left guard, and when he earned the start, he kind of solidified the left side of that offensive line, bringing a nastiness in terms of the run game and in pass protection. So the team very happy to see what he's going to be able to do, and Nick Saban wants to see him fight to try to get that spot back at left guard, which is right now occupied by true freshman Evan Neal.
We're on the line with Stephen M. Smith of touchdownalabama.com. Please join him, the rest of the staff right there. They cover Alabama football like no one else. Reports coming on each and every day on the site. And just to back that up, Stephen's joining us on the phone from Alabama practice, where he's talking to and gathering player interviews right now. So we appreciate you making time for us, Stephen. When we look at this Ole Miss matchup, the thing that jumps out to me in regards to Alabama coming into this game is something that we talked about the last few weeks, and that's the establishment of the what's typically vaunted Alabama running game that has had its issues up front, able to spring Najee Harris loose for 110 yards on 14 carries last week against Southern Miss, Stephen.
The running game started for the first time to really get going consistently on last week, Mark. And I understand against New Mexico State, the Crimson Tide had over 300 yards rushing with 4 touchdowns. But if you remove some explosive plays from that number, not many of those consistent 5, 6, 7-yard gains where you can start to impose your will. And against Southern Miss, you start to see more of those 5, 6, 7-yard attempts, 7-yard rushes. Offensive line opening up the holes, and Najee Harris, the guy that was a former 5-star out of California, did a great job pressing those holes and picking up that 100-yard performance like you mentioned. But in talking with Henry Ruggs on Monday in player interviews, he wants to see more of this. He's happy with the pass attack. He's happy with what Steve Sarkisian has done as offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach of the RPO scheme with the 1-2 at Tagovailoa. But Ruggs wants to see this team be able to gash guys and get that run game going more. He wants to see himself, as along with the other receivers, Jerry Jeudy, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, have more opportunities to block on the perimeter and springing the likes of Najee Harris, Brian Robinson, Jerome Ford, and the rest of the crew for big-time games. So moving forward, especially with having Deontay Brown back, Alabama looks to dive in more to establishing that wheel, creating that balance, trying to generate some form of a consistent run game.
Don't know if you had a chance to check out any of the Ole Miss game against Cal. Of course, you were there in Tuscaloosa checking out Southern Miss against the Tide. But, man, that was a fire drill in the last few minutes of the game. Ole Miss outplayed in the second half, down 28-13, put a touchdown on the board, got a quick defensive stop, scurried down the field with Matt Corral, their starting quarterback, sidelined at that point, and John Reese Plumlee coming in and really taking charge of the football team, and a very controversial ending there at the goal line as they threw a completion at the goal line that appeared to have broken the plane, not given the touchdown, no timeouts left, tried to push their way into the end zone, couldn't make it happen, in a very disappointing loss right at the goal line. The kind of game that you only see once or twice in a lifetime in regards to it coming that close with an 8-point deficit. But Ole Miss comes into this game having notched an SEC win against Arkansas. What are your impressions of Ole Miss football right now?
Well, right now, when you look at Rich Rodriguez, who calls the plays for the Rebels offense, this is still a guy that's a highly regarded offensive mind, and Ole Miss is going to want to spread Alabama's defense out. This is going to be a huge game for your two freshman linebackers, Shane Lee and Christian Harris, in terms of going sideline to sideline, challenging everything, keeping plays in front of you. And not just that, it's a big test for the Alabama defensive front seven. When you look at a running back like Scotty Phillips, who's averaging 90.5 yards rushing per game. He hits the holes well. He's got great vision, a good speed, a good burst once he hits the open field. And after Alabama gave up over 100 yards rushing to Rico Dowdle of South Carolina, you got to be thinking Scotty Phillips is watching that tape going, well, if they give up 100 yards against that cat, I have a chance myself. So Alabama got to be mindful of Scotty Phillips and his ability to maneuver on the ground, but not just that. Despite the fact that the Rebels don't really have its usual cast of receivers that are, 6'3" and taller, your Laquan Treadwells, your Van Jefferson, Jor Quincy, the Boy Joes, and guys like that. It does have Elijah Moore, who's leading the team at receiving at 5'9", and they've got some playmakers on the outside. So the biggest thing for Alabama in this matchup is being able to move sideline to sideline, cover some ground, and that defensive front seven, keeping their eyes on Scotty Phillips and not allowing that young man to have a big day.
Scotty Phillips at 4.3 yards per carry. So even though they're letting him tote the ball to the degree of gaining almost 100 yards per, it's been a bit of a struggle against much lesser defenses. So we'll see if they can gain any kind of push up front to respect the pass, because the ground game could be a difficult sledding for Ole Miss against Alabama. And you mentioned Elijah Moore with 29 receptions. Nobody else on the team has more than 7. So if there's going to be a focal point in the passing game, Alabama certainly is going to keep track of Elijah Moore and know exactly where he is on the field. As you look at Alabama, substantial favorite. Haven't looked at the line, but it's got to be 30 or 35 considering what's going on with these two teams right now. This should be a win in the bank. Can't look past anyone, but the players on the field can't afford to do that. But we in the media, certainly this doesn't appear to be a challenging game for the Tide. But what's going to mark this as an important game for you in regards to seeing development out of this team where it needs to get better?
I think the two aspects I want to see in this game, Mark. Number one, definitely, as I alluded to, the offensive line. Your second test in the Southeastern Conference. What did you take from South Carolina? What did you take from the previous match against Southern Miss? And how do you build on that? how does Cal Flood and this group continue to show we can be a nasty group, we can be a physical group, we can set the tone, not just in running the football, but also continuing to protect Tua Tagovailoa and helping him continue on the season that he's having. So number one, the offensive line setting that tone. Number two, the freshmen on defense, seeing these guys get more comfortable in the game plan, the likes of DJ Dale and Justin Boydby, Christian Harris, Shane Lee, even the safety, Jordan Battle, seeing the game slow down even more for these guys as they get more comfortable in the defense, more comfortable in the scheme, more comfortable in their role. So those were the two things I look for this weekend. The offensive line establishing more of that physical tone, growing in that, and the freshmen on defense getting more acclimated into this is my role and being able to dominate in that role.
Alabama with a bye week following Ole Miss, then they've got a key date on the road at Texas A&M, which may not turn out to be quite the matchup that we thought it was going to be preseason, but still a difficult place to play against the Aggies. Stephen M. Smith of TouchdownAlabama.com joining us from Alabama practice facility. Stephen, we appreciate you stopping by as always, sir. You have a great week and enjoy the ball game.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.